What's up, everybody? This is Mind Your Money with MissBeHelpful, a show that highlights people and stories that will inspire you to get your money right. And today I actually met a fellow money nerd because I met Shana at FinCon last year in 2019, and we connected, and I always knew about her YouTube channel since then. So I wanted to make sure I had Shana on the show. Shana, what's up?
Hey, I'm so excited to be on. I'm so glad that you invited me to be on here.
Yes.
I think it's going to be fun.
Yes, it is. It is going to be so fun because I remember your energy, and then I've been watching videos from the Wealth Vibe. I'm like, Shana's she's just so humble and so chill and so honest. I was like, this is going to be the perfect person to talk about your channel and growing your business and all the things that you've done. So we are going to get into all of that. But first, I just want to open with two fun questions. So the first one is, what was a purchase that you've made in your life that you feel like it was just ridiculous? You spent way too much money, and to this day, you still regret it.
Yeah, so I think for me, that would be a car. I bought a 2016 Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, okay, girl. Well, dang.
And it was a horrible mistake because I actually had a 2007, what did I say, 2016? It was 2013, sorry, 2013. Yeah. I don't know why I said 2016. 2013 Mercedes-Benz. But I had 2007 RAV4 that was completely paid off.
Wow.
But, I traded in the car because my brother actually was like, you should get a nicer car.
Oh my goodness.
My brother.
I feel like I just can't listen. I'm covering my ears like, no, you did not trade in your fully paid off car to get a brand new one. Oh.
Yes. So yeah, and then I end up with that car. I end up selling that to a dealership.
Yeah.
And then I had another car that I had access to that I drove in the meantime, but then I didn't have access to that car anymore. So then I had to buy another car, which I have now, which is paid off.
Good.
But I would have saved so much money because, so many of the, payments that had gone to, that car and everything. Yeah, just
so when you sold it back to the dealership, you lost a lot there, right? Because they don't give you nowhere near what you paid for it.
So I didn't sell it back to that dealership. It was a different one, but I didn't come out ahead because I actually owed. It was underwater because I drove too much in that car as well.
Dang.
And so I think I still owe like $6,000, but I had that money, so I just paid it off. But it helped me because I didn't have to pay the monthly payments on it.
Right.
But yeah, I still had to.
Take that loss. You took that L, girl. Woo!
Yes, major L.
Did you make your brother pay you back for the mistakes that he made you put you in that? You should make him. If your brother's listening or watching, you better pay her back. That was your fault. That was your fault.
It was my fault for not, because I'm older.
But you listen
to myself. But,
true.
I was like, okay, because I always wanted Mercedes, and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense that I deserve a Mercedes. That's what makes sense. All right. So what about the opposite experience where you actually did spend the same amount of money, or like a similar amount of money? You spent a lot of money on something, but you don't regret it. It's actually something that to this day you're like, now that was worth it for me. I don't care if other people think I'm crazy. For me, that was a worthwhile purchase.
Mm-hmm. So I immediately, what came to my mind was there's a blow dryer, but I actually didn't buy it. My boyfriend got it for me for Christmas. But it's
how expensive is this blow dryer? What kind of blow dryer?
Have you not seen those Dyson blow dryers?
It looked like the full salon one?
No.
Like, why is it so expensive?
Dryer. It's like $400.
Ooh, no,
but it's so worth it because like it dries my hair in like 10 minutes. And
wow!
Like heat damage or anything like that. And my hair is like waist length hair, so it's important for me.
Yeah.
But I guess let me find something that I purchased for. I would say a vacuum. Those not the Roomba. I didn't buy a Roomba, but it was like an off-brand one on Amazon. But it was still like maybe $180 or so. Okay. And I really like that because I hate vacuuming. So
I feel
just
you, girl.
able to like press the button and let it, go.
Yeah.
I think it's well worth its money. And then, you can have an appliance like that for forever.
So. Oh, it's true. Yeah. And I I totally relate to you because I don't like vacuuming at all. But I'm a type of person that when the floor is dirty, it doesn't really bother me that much. Like if the floor has a little bit of dust or hair, it doesn't bother me. But my boyfriend, oh my God, he cannot stand when the floor has dust or hair or anything. So we compromised. And this year we finally bought a Roomba and we split the Roomba. So I agree. I think it was a worthwhile purchase because he's happy the floor is clean. I'm happy I don't got to clean it. We're good to go.
Yes, it's a great purchase. Yes. And the one I got actually mops too, but I don't have a big enough space to mop.
Yeah.
So I haven't used it yet, but I think it adds to the value that it offers.
Listen, that's for sure. Anytime you can save on chores is time you can spend doing things that you want to do.
Exactly.
I love that.
Money too.
That's right. That makes some money. All right. Love that. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, Shana. Did you grow up in Georgia? I feel like that's where you live now, but maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, I live in Georgia now, but I grew up in Miami, Florida.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
So my parents are Jamaican, and they are, immigrants to this country. So I'm like a first generation American.
Just like
and
me.
I, my parents taught me, I guess, a little bit about money in the sense that I had like lessons through my dad's business. So he has a business. He fixes like big rig trucks.
Oh,
and
yeah,
so he's a mechanic, and he does that. He had his own shop and everything.
Nice.
And my mom, she stopped working when she gave birth to my sister at I think I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
When that happened. So she was always around and everything, and she managed the money like personally within the family and also for the business. And so she would teach me things like, writing a check. Like I learned how to write a check, and I was so surprised actually when I went to college, like so many people that I went to college with had never written a check, never went to the bank to deposit a check or anything like that.
Nope.
And so that was really valuable. They talked a lot about saving. They told me not to ever get a credit card. So they said different things, but I will also say that they didn't know a lot about like the advanced money aspects.
Yes.
So they didn't really know how to make their money work for them, such as investing and like how even like with credit cards. They told me like never get a credit card.
Wow.
And because it's just, just going to put you into debt, and it's like the worst thing ever. But people now use credit cards to their advantage, like through credit card hacking, to be able to get travel rewards and, even cash back and things like that. But my parents didn't talk about that stuff because they didn't know that. And my parents never, like I said, invested. So I learned things about, basic money things. Like I said, going to the bank, writing checks and, saving. But when it comes to like making your money work for me, they couldn't teach me that stuff because they didn't know it themselves. So.
Right. I hear you. I had a similar, my parents weren't necessarily, they didn't have a ton to save, but they did, try to tell us like, you don't really want to owe anybody money. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I didn't really know anything about credit cards, and nobody ever really talked to me about how to use them. And girl, that was my trap. You know my story, but I had so much credit card debt because I didn't know. And I feel like it's either one way or the other with people. Either they're told to stay away from them because they're terrible, or they're taught to like use them a lot. And I feel like I just wanted to be a happy middle ground. Like I wanted to be in the middle where I use them, but I'm not depending on them, but I'm also not like, anti-credit card. Like I needed to find a place where it worked for me. I think, probably you agree, like you sort of, you learn that yourself, what works for you through doing it yourself.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now with credit cards. Like I don't have any credit card debt, but I use them regularly. So that way I'm able to, get travel rewards. Like we booked a ticket to go to Vegas for Memorial Day weekend, which we aren't going to be able to go on that trip.
Thank you, Corona.
But, that trip was completely free because of, credit card reward points. So, I use them in a smart way now, very strategically.
I love that. All right. So then tell us about how you went from not knowing much in terms of advanced personal finance. You just knew the basics. You knew to save. You knew to write your check and stuff like that. But now you have a whole brand called The Wealth Vibe, and you post videos about how to be savvy with money, and you're running a business and you're doing all these things. So how did you make that transition from that person that you were to where you are now?
Yeah, so I think it's just a lot of self-learning. I would say the first time I learned a little bit more about like advanced aspects of personal finance was in college. I was in this this group, and I was I'm one of the board members of that group. And I was coming back from a meeting, and the president of it, the guy who actually founded the group, he was telling me what his plans were for graduation, how much money he was going to have. And I was like, how you gonna have all this money? Like, what? Like, you don't work now. Like, you know, what are your plans? And so he was like, oh, through like saving and investing. And so he told me about a certificate of deposit account.
Ooh,
And so I opened up one of those. I think that was like my sophomore or junior year of college. So I learned a little bit about that, and then still didn't know too much, but you know, started to, you know, read books and things. And I started to read this book actually by Ramit Sethi.
Yes, I will teach you to be rich. So good.
Yes. So I have it right here. It's hard to reach, but it's right there. But I actually bought it when it first came out in 2010 or 11 or something like that. And I had it on my iBooks. I bought it as an online book. And so when I went to FinCon this past, you know, year, he was actually there. And so I actually bought the physical book then. But that book taught me a whole lot more about automating your finances, using 401ks, IRAs. And so immediately from that book, I opened up an IRA. And I really like that book because it gives you like action items after each chapter. So I went and opened up an account with ING, which is what he was recommending at the time. And that ultimately became Capital One 360, which we all know about now. And then I opened up an IRA. And so just learning, you know, and then taking other people's advice is what kind of helped me. But I will say that although I was learning, I wasn't always doing the best things. And so it just, over time, getting to realize, like, you know, you have a lot of debt. You got to focus on this stuff too, because no matter how much money you have, you're able to earn or even able to save, you're really not in a good financial position unless you get rid of that debt.
The money that you owe. I love that. I love that mindset, because I was the type of person that I would focus so much on my checking account and my savings account. Like I would focus on my bank account. So I would look and log in and be like, oh, look how much money I got in the bank. Oh, I'm saving it. Mind you, I owe like thousands of dollars to this credit card. So once I started learning about net worth, that's when I started to calculate, I never heard that term, net worth. In my house, in school, nobody ever used that terminology with me. So I finally learned about it. I was like, so what's my net worth? I need to know, because all I know is what I got in the bank. And then, you know, when I sat down, add up all the credit card debt that I had and subtracted that from my little checking, I was like, oh, my net worth is negative. I'm in the I'm below zero. My whole life is less than zero. That is scary for me to like sit down and just confront that, that fact. I mean, it's just a fact about me. And that was one of the things that motivated me to like you, to keep learning and figure out what steps I have to do to make my net worth become positive.
Yeah. And you know what? I just remember this as I was talking. One of the things that I did learn from my parents was actually about net worth, but I did learn it too young, I think. So my mom tried to learn a little bit more about investing and stuff, but I think it was just like in those times, like in the 90s, investing was hard to do if you didn't have a broker.
You needed a broker, and you needed a lot of money. Yep.
And so she actually read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read it when I was in middle school.
Great book.
And so I learned a little bit about like net worth and those things. But at the same time, I'm like in middle school. I'm not making money.
And you're also you're not gonna apply it to your life yet because you're just a kid.
Yeah, and so it didn't really have a lot of effect until like later on. I was like, oh, I did hear about that before. Oh yeah, I know the flow quadrant, or whatever he calls it.
Yeah,
about business, you know, employment, and you know, and those things. And so it was instilled in me early, but because my parents didn't really have the opportunity to apply some of those things, and I also didn't have the opportunity to apply those things, it kind of just stay there, you know, like as dormant knowledge. And then after a while, you're like, oh, wait, you know what? I did learn this. Let me start putting those things into practice. So.
If you don't use it, you lose it. And if you're 12 years old and you're not applying those skills that you learned yet, it's gonna fizzle away. Like it's just like I learned how to speak French and I spoke it for a long time. I went to France and everything, but I haven't been practicing it. So now if I hear people talking French real fast, I'm like, wait, hold up, what? Because I know it's a little bit, but I'm not using it. So I'm not keeping it active in my, I like that term you said, dormant knowledge. It's knowledge in a way, but it's dormant. You're not using it. It's just sitting there and it's just not being utilized.
Exactly.
So, it's a little bit, in some ways, a little bit of a waste. Cool. Well, I love what you decided to do in terms of just putting out there your examples and your real experiences. Like you go on your YouTube channel, you talk about what you're doing to save money, how YouTube has brought you extra income, like, and you know, all these little things just so that people can see some examples of a real person doing it in their own life and somebody who's not like, you know, you're just a simple person just talking about your own story. And I think I like that a lot. That's why I tried to do this show. I tried to focus on people's stories and their actual lives because that's what inspires other people to say, oh, she could do it, you know, I can do it. I think your YouTube definitely has that vibe.
Yeah, and that's why I decided to do like YouTube, because I think a lot of people don't talk about this stuff in day-to-day life.
That's right.
And then, you know, a lot of people also weren't talking about it on YouTube. And, you know, there was like a person here or there, but nobody was really like, you know, talking about it in the way that I wanted to talk about it. Like I wanted to share like real numbers. Like a lot of people who are doing budgets, for example, they sometimes would like, you know, hide the numbers or just do percentages, or they'll make up numbers, use half of their household income, and, you know, and then sometimes it'll be people who are couples that were talking about their finances. Like I'm not a couple, you know, like I'm not married. And so I'm having to figure out a lot of these financial things by myself, and how long is it going to take? It's going to take me a decade to get out of debt, whereas like a couple can get out of debt maybe, you know, depending on their income, you know, in a year or two. And so it's, you know, trying to see like myself, like in those areas as well. So I wanted to put that out there because I wasn't finding it on YouTube. So.
I love that so much. I felt the same way. And that's why I started YouTubing too, because I was like, everybody that I'm seeing on YouTube that I'm hearing, they speak so properly and everything is all, you know, they got the technical financial language. I'm like, I didn't know, first of all, I didn't even know net worth meant. And honestly, if there's anybody out there listening who's like that, who's like, I don't know what net worth is, like, it's fine, because I didn't know what that meant. As a little tip, it basically is when you add up everything that you have to your name money-wise and then subtract everything that you owe. And then whatever the difference is what you actually have. And I never knew what that was. And to me, I think that a lot of people consider that to be a basic like vocabulary term in the money world.
In the personal finance,
But it's like, but if you don't know, you don't know it. And so I just felt like I wanted to talk about money, but I didn't want to use all that language that was, you know, it's kind of scary for somebody who doesn't know what
and break it down to like regular people's knowledge, because even like talking about 401ks and IRAs, those can be very like high level, and people are like, it's just too much and I don't even want to bother with it. But it needs to be broken down so that way they feel empowered to say, you know, I actually do want to do this. This is actually beneficial, because if you can't communicate to someone what the value is or what it is, it's like, I don't even want to talk about that.
Exactly. And there's so many people that feel like they don't really like having to learn things the way you learn in school, where you got to read about it, write about it, do a test about it, you know? And I feel like that's how a lot of people try to teach it. And I at least I feel like I noticed that your channel, The Wealth Vibe, has a similar thing where you just try to teach it through talking about it, conversation. It's not going to be a tutorial. I'm not going to bust out the whiteboard. We're not going to do a whole classroom lesson. Like, I'm not doing that. And I feel like your channel does that too, because a lot of people need to see that. They need to see just regular girls talking, like us having girl chat, or even guys just having conversations informally. This is not a interview for CNBC. This is not some whatever. Like, it's just money can be a regular topic of conversation, and it should be. It should be a regular.
It should be, for sure. Yeah, because a lot of people don't, like I said, have these conversations. And the reason why I wanted to talk about like real numbers was because people don't even know like they can make this amount of money, or that they can even save that type of money. Because I think sometimes, and people do this to make it easy, they'll be like, oh, you can save $50 a paycheck. but you don't even think about the possibility of somebody saving like 60% of their paycheck. You know what I mean? And so like being able to say like, this is how much I'm saving, this is how much I'm earning, this is the field that I'm in. People are like, oh wait, people are actually making this type of money. People are actually doing this. People are actually saving this amount, aren't, spending this amount, it just makes it more relatable.
Yep. And it gets them curious, because if you never thought about it yourself before, and now all of a sudden you hear about it from somebody that looks like you, kind of sounds like you, kind of is a little more relatable to you, you're going to think, oh, again, like I said before, if she can do it, I can do it. And also you're going to be more curious. You're going to be like, I want to pull the curtain back and see what she's really doing in her house. I want to learn more so that I can take some of those strategies and put them into my own life.
Yeah.
So I love that. All right. Well, I would definitely love to pull up a question from my Instagram and YouTube, because it's my Instagram or my email, because I get a lot. And sometimes I'm like, I don't always have time to answer them, and I'm just curious too, to see what other people think.
Okay.
So let me see. I have one here, which is very common, and I actually have a YouTube video about it, but it's kind of old, so I'll just do a new one. This one is from Annalisa. So Annalisa says, hi, MissBeHelpful. I really love all your videos, and I've been watching them for a while now, and I'm really struggling to figure out how I can stop my bad habits, especially when it comes to spending my money on things that I don't need. I shop too much, and I spend too much money on random things that I feel like I need in the moment, but when I reflect later, I didn't need that at all. Could you help me, give me some tips about what I can do to stop doing these bad habits? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had this problem because I was a shopaholic, and I have a video about this too, but again, it's a little old. So in today's day and age, where we're sitting in the house stuck for coronavirus and probably just tempted to go on Amazon Prime and buy all the Fenty, buy all the whatever we want, what could we do? What could you say to her that she could try to do, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, so I think off the top of my head, and people probably hear this a lot, really thinking about your purchases. So like if you go online and you're like, oh, okay, I really want to buy like these pair of shoes, like don't buy it right away. Just put it in your cart maybe, and then, sleep on it for like a day, and also see what kind of deals you can get. And if you can't really get it at a deal, or if you feel like the next day you don't really want it, don't purchase it. But I think one of the things that I did for me was I was using Simple Bank, and it's similar to Chime. I'm actually going to switch over to Chime. But basically they have like little envelopes in a sense where you can put like money for different expenses. So you can either say like grocery or food, or, restaurants or clothing, you can label it. Or what I did was actually put a line item on specific stores. So like I had an issue with shopping on Amazon. Yeah, on Amazon and Target. And so I actually haven't even gone to Target really in so long, because I started to put a line item for Target, and I'm like, okay, I don't really need to go to Target. And so it kind of made me think about like, okay, how much do I really want to spend? Because I did a video on this, on how much money I spent on Target in a year. I think I went through my expenses for Target. I did the same thing for Amazon. It was like way too much money. And so I was like, I don't want to spend that much. I'm only going to set a certain limit to it. And then after a while, you're like, okay, I don't really need to go to Target for this. Because once you step foot into Target, you leave Target
$800 worth of stuff.
Yeah, so if you start to put like a limit on it, gradually you'll stop purchasing from those type of stores. You'll realize, okay, I don't even need to go there for this thing. And you'll think about, using whatever you have, or, you just start thinking about it in different ways. So that was a way that I was able to cut my expenses, especially for Target and Amazon. I don't shop as much on Amazon. I still do shop at Amazon, but I definitely don't shop as much on there. But Target, like that was just bad. I really have drastically cut my spending for Target by doing this.
I know I used to spend so much money in stores, but I really like what you said, which is to don't just budget for shopping or budget for like whatever groceries or whatever, but like break it down to the stores where you shop. I really like that because then you can keep track. Like you can go back and be like, oh, last month I put myself $60 for Target or for Amazon Prime. This month, I'm going to put 55. It doesn't feel like a big difference. But then next month, I'm going to do 50. And then slowly, I'm going to work myself from spending $65 a month on Amazon to spending $40 a month on Amazon and saving 25. So that incremental shift can really help. I love
that.
What
it does? It helps you not feel deprived either.
Right.
Because if you're like, oh, I can't go to Target, then you're going to be looking at it in a deficit mindset.
Yes,
like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do without Target? Yep. And you start to be like, I really don't want to go to Target. Yes. But when you give yourself some freedom to go to Target, but you're like, okay, this is all the money that I can spend in Target, you start to think about Target in a more strategic way. And then that way you stop overspending. And you have to look at where you're spending, because it's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to stop spending, $300 on clothing. But if you realize you spent all your money on Fashion Nova clothing, you need to realize it's a Fashion Nova issue, and you need to stop going on Fashion Nova. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I love that advice so much, because I feel like that is one of the things that I didn't really do. I went cold turkey, try to go one day to the next, try to stop spending. And then I felt mad at myself that I wasn't able to do fun things, or I felt deprived. And I slowly went back and started to adjust my budget and put money in there just for fun money, like for me.
Yeah.
So, and Elisa, that was her name. And Elisa, that is great advice from Shana. Do not try to go cold turkey one day to the next. Slowly, gradually reduce it in your budget and put specifically the stores. And I think that would start to help you for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Shana, for sharing that. That's actually, I've never really heard anybody who budgets say that they break it down by the store they shop. Like that is very specific and can help you. All right, cool. So the way that I've been wrapping up the show for everybody who's listening and watching is to, I put on Photoshop a dollar bill and I take the face off. Sorry, George Washington. I take the face off and I put your face on it, and then your money motto or your money message is going to go above it. So everybody out there who's going to touch money, who's going to have money, who's going to see dollar bills, what is the money mantra that you want them to see on your dollar bill?
I think, let's think. You gotta put me on the spot. I want to say something about like abundance, because I want people to know that like there's so much money out there. There's an abundance of money, but you have to be wise about your money that you use, and also be proactive about getting the money, because there's not a limit of money that we can have. So let me think about how I want to rephrase that. I don't know how to rephrase it.
I mean, there's two parts, right? The first part is there's really no limit to how much money you can get, but you have to
be wise.
But you have to right, and you have to go go chase it. You have to go chase the money, because it's out there, but it's not going to come to you unless you go get it or you go for it. So maybe it's money is abundant, but you have to go get it.
There's an abundance of money. Go get it and keep it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And keep it. Don't get it and then spend it. I love that. There's an abundance of money. Go get it and keep it.
Yes. Okay. I love that idea. Yeah.
It's going to be so fun. I'm going to tag you in it so you can see your dollar bill. Everybody's going to be able to see it and share it. I love that motto so much. And Shana, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, to share your story. Hopefully, I know that your story is going to inspire other people. So if they want to reach out to you and let you know that your story and that your episode, whether it's on YouTube or the podcast, that it inspired them and uplifted them a little bit, where can they reach you at?
Yeah, so I am on YouTube at The Wealth Vibe, and I have my name also attached there, so you can also search Shana Green, Shana, green like the color. And then I'm also on Instagram at The Wealth Vibe. So you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube. I post videos on YouTube weekly. I try to do anywhere from 1 to 3 videos a week. So you always find something there on my channel. I'm always talking about how you can increase your income, eliminate debt, and build your wealth.
That's right.
And I'm doing that over on Instagram too. And so I would love to have a conversation with you and have you, check out my videos and check out my content. So I really appreciate you for checking it out. And thank you for having me on the podcast.
Girl, awesome. It was so fun. I'm so glad we had a chance to chat. This was so great. I didn't even know so many things about you. I thought you were from Georgia originally. I learned you were from Miami. Like you get to know people better when you just sit down and do the one-on-one. So I really appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right,
thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you like this video, which I'm sure you did because the video was the bomb, then you're going to want to watch all the other episodes of the Mind Your Money with MissBeHelpful podcast. And they're all right here in this playlist. So click the playlist to watch those episodes. And if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click the subscribe button right now so you can get videos every single week and to join Team Be Helpful right here. That's all I have for you guys. Till next time, peace.